Ladies and gentlemen, come on up. I think you're here to issue us all an invitation to a very special event. So make sure you introduce yourselves. And
I'm Fabronia Mansour.
I'm Alex Gucci.
So, like Ms. Hayes just said, we're from E=MC², and our annual symposium is coming up on June 7th. So this is kind of like our official invitation to you all. So everybody, I think everybody here knows about EMC. But let me just give you a refresher on what it is. So basically, we are founded upon the idea of open inquiry and every student being able to explore what they're passionate about, and they choose their own topic. But it's so much more than that, because within that choice comes a lot of accountability and a lot of responsibility to direct your own learning. So throughout the year, we're mostly driven by questions, and Alex can probably speak a lot to that also. And essentially, throughout the year, we're directing our own learning, and that whether that means we're reaching out to the community to show people what we've learned, or we're just collaborating with our peers, there's always something going on, and there's always opportunities for challenging yourself and for growing as a student and as a learner. And that's what I think really sets this class apart from the other classes. I've been in this class for 3 years, so leaving it is going to be very, very hard. But it has definitely had a very positive impact upon myself, and just widening the breadth of my ability to objectively gain value from everything that I do. And I really appreciated that over the past 3 years. And on June 7th, we'll be not really just showcasing all of that learning, but also kind of trying to empower others to think about what we've learned and how they can kind of extend that to their own communities also.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say in a few words how much I've learned from this year, but it's just been an incredible amount, and it's been of a very different quality than anything else I've done in high school. Before this, it was just really, taking classes and taking tests and learning the material, and then just forgetting it over the summer and rinse and repeat. And I don't mean to portray that as not meaningful. I mean, I think, of course, it's very meaningful. The things you learn from teachers, especially very good teachers, it's a very important, Ms. Rudolph has just taught me so much, and other teachers I've had. But in EMC, it's different because there is no grade, so there is no way to objectively measure what you've learned. Yet at the same time, it's a fact that I've learned and done more this year than I have in any other class. And I think that the fact that there is no grade allows me to learn more, because you can get hundreds in other classes, right? And it can tell you that you've learned a lot, but in EMC there is no limit to the learning. So it's you never stop. And sometimes in other classes it feels like you can start just like on a grind, or just homework and tests and this and that. But with EMC, you're guiding yourself, and it's always a challenge, and it's never a dull moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's times at EMC where it feels like a grind, and it can just be very difficult to work through a new idea, but it's in the end, it's always far more meaningful, because it's something that you've created. It's something you've given birth to new ideas instead of memorizing them. And I think that is really given me a new appreciation for this breadth and unity of knowledge, and it's made learning exciting again for me, I think, yeah.
And just to show you exactly how much Alex has learned, he's written 125,000 words over the past 9 months. So if that's any indication. Yeah, this class really does teach us a lot, and it also teaches us community and developing that ability to collaborate with others and learn from each other's projects, and just trying to understand other people. Like, I can tell you, for the past 2 years I've studied neuroscience, and this year I was studying worms, and you can imagine how different that fell into kind of the mix of something like Alex's topic, which is morality and free will, and being able to kind of understand how the human experience works. So it was by seeing that dichotomy between my own project and everybody else's project, and being able to remediate that by finding common ground, and also being able to share the experiences that we've had and learn from each other. So once again, June 7th from 7 to 9 p.m. We know that there's an FMS awards ceremony that same night, but it does go till 9 p.m. So if you want to take a little bit of both, we'd love to see you at the symposium. And it's just a really great night. Everyone is working really hard on preparing their speeches and really trying to identify big ideas that they've learned and want to share with everybody on that night. So we hope to see you there, and thank you so much.
Sure. Just wanted to ask you, if I could.
Is this course open to anybody in the high school that wants to take it? Is it a full year thing that you commit yourself to, or how does it work? And are there any credits given for the course?
So it is open to everybody. This next year is the first year that we'll be having ninth graders participate in the course. In the past, it's just been 10th, 11th, 12th. But it is open to everybody. And it is a full year course. We do get elective credit for it, but it's pass or fail. So there's no number or grade attached to it. Yeah, so it's evolved a lot. You'll notice in the first year of EMC, it was only open to help desk students. So that kind of put a limit on the exposure. But then starting from last year and this year, it was open to more than just the help desk. And next year, there will be a ninth grader, which will also be something new for the class.
Thank you.
Can I
Are there any other questions? Ben, do you have
I don't have a
Sure,
question, but while she's here, Fabroni Mansour over the weekend on Saturday won first place at the Greater Capital Region STEAM Expo with her project on neuroscience and C. elegans worms, and she built this toolbox that she used to demonstrate her project a little bit better, and she won first place again.
Congratulations.
Now, are both of you seniors, and what are your plans for next year?
I will be attending State University of New York at Geneseo. Major undecided currently, but we'll figure it out along the way, I think.
I'll be attending Albany College of Pharmacy just down the road. I'm in the Doctor of Pharmacy program, and I hope to also get my Bachelor of Science degree in the process of that.
Thank you.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you for coming in.
Very impressive.
Okay, that was great. The next item on our agenda is public comment number 1. Linda, has anybody signed up this evening? Okay. And now we move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the May 1st, 2018 meeting, the CPSC and CSE recommendations, personnel action items, and the financials. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Barbara, second. Teresa, are there any questions, comments, abstentions? Tim?
I just wanted to ask a question, and I make sure I got the right spot. I think it's the revenue report for the period ending April 30th, 2018. And I was just curious where in the general fund balance, it looks like it went up a little over $900,000 from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. I hope I'm reading this correctly. And I was just curious if that's one of these kind of cyclical things that happens towards the end of the school year, or how exactly that happens.
Where are you seeing the $900,000?
Well, it's like really small. It's if you go right in the first line, the balance at the beginning of the month is $1,065,000, and then the balance at the end of the month $1,981,000. So I was just curious.
Are you in the revenue report or
In the fund balance
Treasurer's
report?
report.
Summary
Treasurer's
of the
report.
treasurer's. Yeah, the treasurer's report ending April 30th.
Okay.
So it's right in that top section, general fund, cash account.
Okay, so this is a cash balance at the beginning of the month, and we had cash coming in, cash going out, and the balance at the end of the month. So this is pretty much like your checking account is what happens with the treasurer's report. So we do get revenue in over the course of the year, state aid payments. There's a March state aid payment that comes in. So as we get revenue in, we record that, and then also disbursements coming back out again. So it's like a checking account. So it'll change every month. It's like I don't know, better way to say it other than if you think of it like your checking account, where you have your paycheck coming in, you have your bills coming back out again, and it's that cyclical balance.
Just seemed like a bigger amount than, as you look across, there's differences here and there, but not that 900,000 or so, but.
Well, that's our major
bigger
account.
fund.
That's the budget, basically, so it tends to have a lot of activity and a lot of large numbers circulating through the month. And again, depending on the particular month and where we get revenue. So in that March to April timeframe, we do get a state aid payment in
Okay.
there, so.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
The balance is not like my checking account.
Probably wouldn't be sitting here if it was.
Yeah.
Are there any other, Ben?
I was here, but I'm going to abstain from the minutes
Sure.
item.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor, with one abstention? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you. With one abstention from the minutes. And now we move down to information items, curriculum and instruction. Damien?
I'd like to start by offering congratulations to Gilderland High School senior Julianne Kim, who has been selected as the WMHT May 2018 Classical Student of the Month. We'll have her video featured for the month of May. In the video and interview, Julianne performs Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto accompanied by Dan Foster. You can access her video by the link that's provided for you, and she was nominated for this recognition by her orchestra teacher, Mrs. Suzanne Curo. Julianne has performed with numerous organizations, including the Empire Youth Orchestra as concert master, New York State Summer School for the Arts concert master of 2014-15, the NYSSMA All-State String Orchestra as an assistant concert master, and is currently the concert master for the Gilderland Symphony Orchestra. This past year, Julianne was the winner of the Gilderland Concerto competition and frequently gives of her time and talent performing for residents at the Atria. So congratulations to Julianne Kim. And I do have a textbook submitted for your information and approval at a future board meeting. The textbook is A History of Europe in the Modern World, the AP edition, and this is for use in grade 10 AP European History. And I'm pleased to share that on Thursday, May 3rd, the Business and Marketing Educators Association of the Capital District celebrated the 26th Annual Outstanding High School Business Student Awards. There were 17 seniors from 16 area schools were selected by their business teachers as outstanding students based on the number of business courses they've taken, academic excellence, and leadership. The student chosen from Gilderland High School was Arnav Kanan. In addition to receiving the award, Arnav was chosen to receive a $1,000 scholarship sponsored by the Capcom Federal Credit Union. Arnav was chosen in recognition of his work creating a startup high school, an event pairing teams of students with local entrepreneurs and mentors. Additionally, the evening also included an award for an outstanding business teacher, which was given to a teacher who has been nominated by his or her colleagues as having made a significant contribution to business education. This year's very deserving winner was Gilderland business teacher Mrs. Joan McGrath. So congratulations to both Arnav and Joan for this outstanding recognition. And we had some other teachers recognized as well. And we want to extend congratulations to Gilderland High School teachers and students who were recognized at the annual CASDA, or Capital Region Scholars Recognition Dinner on May 16, 2018. High school English teacher Gary Janarup, who has now received this recognition 10 times, by the way.
Wow.
With Colin Buick of grade 12, Shannon Clegg with Masood Shaif of grade 12, and Mitch Hahn with Ife Ojukwu of grade 12. So congratulations to all for that well-deserved recognition. And our 2008 Spring Scholar Athlete Awards have been announced. So congratulations to the following teams who have qualified for the 2018 award. They are our baseball team, the boys lacrosse team, girls lacrosse, softball, tennis, boys track and field, and girls track and field. And again, they have to have a cumulative grade point average of 90 or higher. And Farnsworth Middle School, we had some additional recognitions. We want to extend congratulations to the following 8th grade students that received national recognition by placing in the bronze or honorable mention category on the National Spanish exam, which was administered in April. The highly competitive exam is given to 150,000 students studying Spanish nationwide and measures reading and listening performance as well as vocabulary and grammar achievement. The students are pictured here with their teacher, Ms. Dugan. In the first row seated, you will see Will Angus and Maddie Cassier. Second row from the left is Dari Maya Galan, Shriya Srinivasan, and Anushri Sripathi. In the back row is Natalie Tice, Megan Collins, Jaden Lay. And missing from the picture are Julie Coden and Carly Lahara. So congratulations to all.
Great, thank you, Damien. And now we move to superintendent information items. Murray?
Thank you. I just have one item tonight, which is a heartfelt and genuine thank you to our community for its overwhelming support of the budget that went before the voters just last week. I'd like to congratulate the candidates elected to the Board of Education, 2 incumbents, Christine Hayes and Seema Rivera, and our 2 newcomers, Ben Goes, who's joining us tonight, and also Sean McGuire, who will be joining us in July. I'd also like to thank and recognize Neil Sanders and Linda Livingston, who do a ton of work to make the vote happen and go smoothly. So thanks to your good efforts. We had an interesting start that day, but it all came out in the end. I also want to thank everyone who played a part in the budget development process and the voting process. During the vote, we conducted an exit survey, and we had 638 respondents. That's 32% of those who cast a ballot on that day. The purpose of this survey is to collect demographic data about who voted and why they voted the way they did. And those results will be available in a few weeks, and they will be posted to the district's website at that time. I also want to offer thanks to the Capital Region BOCES Communications Service and the communications specialists assigned to us in Guilderland for assisting in that effort. So thanks to everyone who played a part. We're very appreciative of the positive outcome.
Thank you. And now we move to board president information items. There are 3 this evening. The first relates to the organizational meeting and the proposed 2018-19 Board of Education meeting dates. So after discussion at the last meeting, there was a little bit of back and forth about the reorganizational meeting. That has been scheduled for Thursday, July 5th at 7 p.m. right here in this room. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the calendar, and are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you. And now we move on to the Board of Education Student Awards and other end-of-year ceremonies. You'll see as an attachment to this agenda item is a list of the upcoming awards and ceremonies and the board members who will be attending each. Has everybody had an opportunity to review this, and are there any questions, comments on this item? Yep.
I'm sorry. Just to clarify, I will not be at the FMS Board of Ed Award ceremony because I will be at the symposium.
Okay. So we will remove or make that note. Any other comments on this? Barbara?
I'm torn, because I would love to see what those kids did, but I've already signed up for the middle school Board of Ed Awards, so.
But they said they go till 9, right? So you can go after? Because I was going to do.
Yeah, but apparently they're giving speeches about what they've done for the whole year, starting at 7, so let me think on it.
Okay.
Flip a coin.
I may not be here on the 7th.
Okay.
I signed up for it, but there may be a conflict, and I won't know for a while still. I'll let you know.
Okay, sure.
I'd love to be there. I'd love to see the kids, but I would also love to be at the E=MC squared.
Okay. It looks like there's a fair number of
Yeah,
board
I thought
members
there were
signed up for
also
that,
like-
so
Yeah.
I think we
like
should
to
be in
there.
good shape. Yeah. Anyone else? Tim?
I'll go the different direction. I had originally put in that I wouldn't be at the high school graduation, but now would like to go, but not be
Okay.
on stage.
Not be on
So
stage.
should I just contact Deb Sim with that, or
Marie?
I think that's who the email.
Yeah, you can reach out to
Yeah.
Deb, and she'll take care of you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Linda, have you been able to keep track of these minor changes? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. The next item is a discussion of the handbook that the Communications Committee has been working on and has been reporting out on for the last many meetings. We've received a request to have kind of more of a detailed discussion of this, since it seems that we've been having these discussions towards the end of the meeting and haven't really had an opportunity to discuss it as a board. I reached out to Gloria, and she was happy to have this discussion. So with that, I will open it up. Does anybody want to start the discussion on the handbook? Does anybody want to? Tim?
I will start.
Okay.
Thank you. First off, I very much appreciated having all of this put in one spot. on our update here, as far as having all the working copies and then the recommendations that have come in afterwards, having them all in one section was very helpful. That said, and I think I was kind of called the guinea pig for this, since I was the new board member for this year. And so I've really looked at the handbook a lot and thought about it a lot and tried to give input as much as I could. And I kind of hit a wall as far as input goes with some of the last sections. But I brought it today, so I'll hand it in today, but I wanted to keep it for now. I guess just what I want to throw out there, and again, I'm just offering up some ideas. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to give an opinion, just thinking. I'm back to mowing at the golf course. I'm sitting on a tractor, a mower. I have lots of time to think. So this is the stuff I think about. I don't know if that's a very good indictment on me or not. But I do think about it a lot. And one thing that I'm just a little confused or frustrated on is that, when you take the oath to be a board member, like Mr. Goes did tonight, and your pretty important part of that is the Constitution. So that seems like the top of the ladder as far as the things that we're responsible for. The Constitution really doesn't get too much bigger than that. From that, when you go through your board training, you get a binder on board governance and accountability, which is excellent, and you get a big binder on financial oversight and accountability and the fiduciary responsibilities. Again, this is excellent stuff. The presenter at these workshops was a Dr. Mark Jones, and he was just so good. And one of the things that I just echoes in my mind from that training was, as a board member for the oversight responsibility, you ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. I mean, he said that so many times. And you're asking questions to get information so that you can make good decisions and fulfill that oversight role for policy and fiduciary. So you've got all that information, and then we've got the policy handbook, which again, I love. I love the policy handbook, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting next to Mrs. Frederick. I love the policy handbook. I love reading through all of that information. I did go through, and there are 47 policies that basically, scope out the board and different responsibilities. 47 policies starting from 2000, going all the way up to 2710. So you've got all of that information, and now with the handbook, I guess my frustration, and again, I don't mean this to be negative, my frustration is just that some of it comes off as being a little redundant at times because we already have it in here. Now, if it's just a process of putting it in a handbook so it's a little bit easier to access, I guess I kind of see that. But I'm a little concerned, especially with the section 4 planning, that some of it starts to get into being more of a manifesto for groupthink. And I know groupthink is one of the terms that Mr. McManus used when we had the candidates forum almost a year ago, a little over a year ago. And he also talked about that a little bit in September or October. And so I guess my illustration for that was when you're putting in a process where you have to, anytime you want information, and I could be wrong on this, I could just be misinterpreting things. If you're putting in a request for information and it has to be voted on, and if it's voted down, you're kind of steered in the direction of then making a Freedom of Information Act request, which, and I know this part has been taken out, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It says that NISBA doesn't recommend this. So I'm just having a hard time squaring up a section in the handbook that could in the future put board members into a position of either having to do FOIL requests or starting with FOIL requests, because you might say, well, why should I even bother with going through a process before the board when I can just do a FOIL request and get that information anyway? I don't know if that sets up friction throughout the process or throughout the board year. So I just, and again, I didn't hand this last one in because I got scared off, and I just didn't do it because I didn't think it would go over too well. But, you know, you have to say what you have to say sometimes. And so I just offer these thoughts up for some discussion and suggestions, and I do have the other one ready to go. So I'll hand those in tonight. And, you know, I apologize for not being more timely when there was a chance to address these concerns. And I thank you for the time now to be able to do it.
Sure.
So thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Tim. I was just wondering, is this something that you thought about at the committee, or is it?
This is only the first, we haven't even discussed that section on planning. So what we were waiting for was input from people.
Sure.
And we haven't gotten that, well, we're getting it, of course, from two now, and don't apologize for being late, believe me, all of us are having difficulty keeping to a schedule. But we have not, the committee has not dealt with that section yet, because we haven't even gotten all the input yet. And so our discussion in June 8th, that would be part of it. And it would come through, I'd hope, through Tim's comments, because we value that, because was the first one to kind of use this thing. I do want to go back to your original, Tim, about the reason for doing this, and I think you hit it when you said just something quick and easy, so that if you had a quick question, maybe it could be answered a little easier that way than plowing through or trying to find it. Or you could just pick up the phone too, but something like that. I'm not sure, I just wanted to ask you, in your thinking about the section about the questioning piece, what I'm thinking about is our thrust was, if it was a question that someone had, say, at the board, that required, it could be answered easily, it would just be answered, that would be not a problem. But if it required, for example, some research and something to be done, some a little time, then that would be something that the president would determine, maybe I think we said 5, majority of the board felt that the time spent by the district office staff would be worth pursuing, so that we wouldn't allow one individual to say, I'd like the 5 years worth of, blah, 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 without coming back to the board and saying, is this something that we want hours spent doing? That's what that refers to. But if someone, and I remember I met with Ben yesterday, and I kept stressing him, questions are powerful. I mean, those are the things we need to bring up. I said to him, there are some questions you want to ask beforehand because it helps you understand what's in front of you when you're reading the agenda or something like that. But other questions come up as you're sitting here. Somebody says something, you go, oh, I just thought of that. And we should encourage questioning. It's a foundation of working as a team to get things out there. But I think what we were referring to in that one section was, if the question, an individual wanted some big research thing done, that then it's the responsibility of the board to say, yes, we do want that time spent doing it, or not.
Okay.
If that helps. But we haven't dealt with this section, so your comments will come to us.
Okay.
And hopefully it will trigger that kind of discussion, or clarification if it's not clear. Obviously, we're not being clear there, but I think that's very important.
Okay.
Because we are elected by the community to represent so many different thought processes and aspects of the community. I think it's so important that we bring that, because that's the beauty of the team, of all these different points of view. So I don't know if that helps, but, and our thinking, of course, the committee's thinking is only a small subset of the board. So once our thinking is done and we come back to you, the whole board, then that's going to be another level of, okay, yeah, all right, well, we didn't like your thinking. Or we kind of, yeah, we do agree with that thinking, and we have to hash that piece out. this is a lot longer of a process than we thought, because we're working with all 9 individuals, putting in their thinking and how they read something, so trying to make it clear and clarify. But I think your first point about why do it was the fact that when somebody new comes on, it's a quick way of saying, these are your immediate responsibilities, and this is what we're also, I think, using it in some way, and this is something I'd like us to discuss, to put in some things, and I know, Seema, you, or somebody wrote down, if we're not doing this, this is a great idea, kind of thing. We were putting things in that NISBA, because we were using NISBA's recommendations as well as our own thinking. NISBA had some ideas about doing some things, like, for example, you mentioned this tonight, Seema, to me, doing the superintendent's, not a formal evaluation maybe in the spring, but something halfway through the year. And I know you responded to me, that's a good idea, but I know we're not doing it, but maybe, so the committee, I think, is looking at opportunities here to say, well, maybe the NISBA's got a point here, let's put it in and see what generates it. Do we want to go in that direction or not? So there's an opportunity for some growth, maybe in some areas where we haven't done things, especially with board evaluating ourselves. We've struggled with that kind of thing, so.
Barbara?
I guess that's what I'm sort of struggling with, because as you did the pieces, there is so much that does not apply to our modus operandi, so to speak.
Exactly.
And to me, unless you're going to do that,
Exactly.
we shouldn't be
Well, that's what our conversation and
Taking-
communication has been.
making this a professional handbook, you
No,
know?
no, we've had that conversation. We've said, well, if we're going to put this in, is this something we're going to come back to the board and say, look, we're advocating for this? And then the board says, no, fine, but that's the conversation we're having.
Seema?
I think that was the only feedback I had to over
Right.
the whole book was if we are doing it as a regular practice, or if we want to, then we should include it, otherwise we should leave it out. And the two things I think that stood out for me were doing the superintendent evaluation, like a mid-year kind of check in January. For me, it would be helpful because it's a long year to kind of do everything all of a sudden in May with like a million things going on. It's hard to remember. So I don't know if that's a practice that we can do. I don't know how other people feel about it, but it would be helpful. I feel like it would be more accurate to do kind of, something mid-year. And then the other part was, I think we talked about this in the committee, was doing a reflection of our work of ourselves at the end of the year.
Yep.
And I don't know if NISBA has a template or not. I know
They
we
do.
talked about it. Okay.
They do. We
So-
talked about looking at that. If that's a direction we as a group decide to go, whether the committee comes back with an idea, whether we take it is another level. But that's why we were putting in what we as a committee saw as maybe things we want to consider. And then it's up to us as a whole whether we want to or not. There were some things on professional development. There were, I think there's been a couple of things that we thought were positives that would help us. Our evaluation of ourselves, it was key because we don't, and the goal setting and envisioning, that we as a group need to find the time to do that if we're going to be the leaders.
Maybe to make it clear, because Tim is the one that used it really first, in that section, I don't remember how it's phrased, about asking for information and having the majority, maybe, we can have another statement saying this doesn't limit, any board members from asking questions.
Oh, yeah, I think, I want to look at what Tim's
Okay.
wording. We can look at that on June,
Yeah.
whenever our next meeting is.
Okay.
Look at what Tim's suggestions are, because, as I say, he's reading it from first.
Barbara?
Able to address specific things tonight, or was this just the?
No, we can, sure. This is our opportunity, I think, to discuss
Okay,
what's been on our
one of-
minds.
One of the things, I think it was in probably the first section, that I struggled with is a statement that says if you get called by a reporter, you have to
Oh, media, that's communicating with the media?
tell the reporter you can't talk to them, that they have to talk to the president. And, over the last 15, 20 years, I've had many calls from reporters, and I've always thought it was the gracious thing to do
I don't
to
have the word,
answer their questions. And, you have to use some common sense. You don't criticize a fellow board member, or you don't criticize a determination that's already been made. But I think it's just courtesy to respond to that phone call and not just say, no comment, call my president.
That's not, I hope that's not how it reads, but I don't have the wording from. One of the things that came out last year when we had some issues with the media is we as a board agreed that when it's it's an opportunity to speak for the board, that we would designate people to speak. And if it's the president, fine. If the president is out, then she designates the vice president. So we kind of agreed to that, so we were just putting that into a formal wording. Because that's when we speak for the board, those are the people that speak for the board. We have every right as individuals to speak to any reporter, as individuals. But we don't speak for the board. I don't speak for the board. Christine speaks for the board. Or she designates SEMA to speak for the board.
Can I just read this
Sure,
sentence? It says, "Any board member receiving a call from the media requesting information, comments, or an interview regarding board actions or administrative matters will direct the media representative to the superintendent or to the board president."
Yeah, so if that's not clear to you in terms of the list, because it's really board, you're not speaking for the board, they would speak for the board. We would speak, if they were asking you personally how you felt about a certain issue, you wouldn't say, go talk to Dr. Wiles, you would answer the question. But if they're asking about board actions or board, then they speak for the board.
So 6 and 7 in that list kind of get to the individual piece, but I can see 6 reads, if a board member wishes to speak to a media representative, but the board member is not the designated spokesperson, the board member should clarify at the beginning of the interview they are speaking as an individual rather than as the authorized representative of the Board of Education. And then there's another one sort of related, when speaking as an individual and expressing an opinion on a matter that will be coming before the board, board members retain their right to free expression, but should indicate they remain open to discussion and new information at the board table. So I think they do sort of contradict each other in their wording. Maybe
Yeah, the
we
wording
can,
of that first part.
maybe we can look at that to clarify.
That one I have,
Definitely, it's not clear in the beginning where the limits are.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the kind of feedback we were looking for. That's exactly what we were trying to do every time you got a section. And we didn't get but people didn't give them back. Not very many, I have to tell you, quite honestly. A few people were good about it, but some people never turned in anything. So, we can only operate if you tell us. And we'll do the best we can with what we get, and then if we have to go back again, we'll go back to the drawing board again. But as much feedback as we can get beforehand is really helpful.
So Gloria, when these come back kind of for a second read after they've been through the committee, is it possible to put it in more of a clear kind of redlined form of these are the changes? So
Yeah,
it's clear to me that I can see like what's striked out, what's been added.
That's what we can,
It hasn't,
okay.
I guess just using that kind of Word document function, the red line makes it easier to go through and identify those. I know that
Where
you've
the
been
changes
highlighting.
occurred?
Yep.
That's what
Or
we're trying to
do
So
a
we
compare.
have
do. We had like 9 different.
Well, we have
Yeah.
we have 4 versions working, but it sounds like
now.
we need a 5th. I hate to,
I know.
because we have the
believe me.
original, we have then the first marked up, then the feedback on the marked up, and then the version that came out of committee. So it
Right.
sounds like we need a marked up version that comes out of committee and then the final.
So I would do a compare between the original and the final, and then you see all of the changes that were put into it. So you're not necessarily seeing everything that was suggested. You're
Right.
seeing what the committee
Yeah,
has
oh,
finally
yeah, oh, yeah.
implemented.
You definitely want to see where it started and where it ended, but you may,
Yeah.
all the little pieces in between are what was driving us crazy. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you had 5 different people putting in things.
Mhm.
A lot of it, there really were some big areas. I mean, there was a few areas with the wording.
Mhm.
Mostly it was take a footnote out or do this.
Mhm.
We'll keep working at it, the best we can, but any feedback, you're welcome. Believe me. Thank you, Tim. We appreciate
yeah.
your feedback, believe me.
I'm going to push my luck just a little bit more.
Go ahead, push.
So it's basically an information handbook
For a new board member,
for
hopefully.
new board members. So it's not something that's going to be used as a gotcha tool where, or as a cudgel to get after board members, because there's some things in there that just kind of sound a little oppressive or ominous.
Really?
And-
Okay, well, point those out, because
Yeah.
I never thought it was a guide to help people function better. I mean, that's all we're trying, I think people wanted, was just a guide to help us. And if it's not working out, then we look at it and say, well, we say we're doing this, but it's not going in that direction. I mean, I see it as more of an organic thing, not,
Okay,
it's not law, I mean, it's
right.
something,
Do you mean
a guidebook.
It's not even policy.
It's not even policy, Jim, it's not even policy, it's a guide that we are forming for ourselves to help us function better.
Well, yes and no, because it's a guide that's based on policy. A lot of it is just policy that's already in.
Some of it probably
Policy.
does go with that, yeah.
That's
We weren't
just
using that, we weren't going to the policy and
Okay.
grabbing that.
all
We were
right.
saying, what would help us function, best?
Okay, again,
I hope that that's the way
that's just
we're
where I was
looking at it.
confused on things. Yeah, I was not looking at it that way,
Okay,
so
well, please.
I'll reread it and look at it a different way now.
Well, maybe we need some kind of an introductory statement
Yeah.
that clarifies
Like
what the purpose of the document is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good
that
idea.
would be very helpful, yeah.
Well, just to reiterate, my big concern was if you put something in a document like that, like you're supposed to have an annual retreat, an annual this, an annual that, and, we've seen ourselves, sometimes we skip a year, then, you're sort of violating your own.
Well, don't we
Guidebook.
we have the right to do that. We could say, we're recommending that the board have a retreat every year. Now, if one year we decide, well, we had one last year, we're still working on things we want to skip, it's still up to us whether we do that or not. They're just helpful suggestions to keep in our mind. We should be doing this, but there may come a time where we say, no, we don't need to this year.
I think that's sort
It's
of
a
what,
good way
yeah,
of-
it's a good clarification. We
But
don't
not
have to,
having
but
it
these
in
are
there, Barb,
recommendations.
it's not even part of our thinking then. It should be part of our thinking. I think we're putting things in there that should be part of our thinking, and then we decide whether to act on it or not.
Like, one example I can think of is that whole naming of the football field thing, and somebody came and asked, like, if anyone had a statement, and I think no statement was given out. And of course, like Dr. Weil said, if we speak on our own, that would be one thing. But I know, I was thinking, it would be good if someone had made a
That's
statement.
when we had the discussion.
Yeah, and so whoever was president then, I remember, I don't know who I was talking to, but I was like, maybe the president is the person that makes a
Exactly.
statement or
That's
something
why
like
that came, that's where that
So
came
it would
from.
just be, for me, it would be helpful, I know when I was new, figuring out like the process, but I don't think it's like restrictive, like you have to do it this way.
No.
You can do whatever. I mean, for the most part,
Nobody
you
can,
follow the law.
you have freedom of speech, you can do
And these are
what you like.
recommendations, yeah.
It'd help us function better, but if they don't, then.
Even, something small like this year with getting emails from people in the community in the process of who responds. I always respond and just say, thanks for your email, et cetera. But if it's, more follow-up, now we have a little bit more of a process. I guess those things, I don't find it that restrictive, but maybe there needs to be something, especially for newer people at the beginning, saying
Yeah, I
that
think
this
that's
is,
would be
this is just a
helpful.
guide.
Yep.
That, you're not held to this, it's not a policy.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful
Way of
clarification that you're saying that this is suggestion, recommendation, because that was one of the things I observed by reading this, is there's lots of great ideas in here, but lots of this we don't do, and I want to be mindful of everybody's obligations outside of this board, that it would be great if we could do all these things, but do we actually have the time, and are we using our time in the most efficient way? And so, I think it would be helpful to say, make it clear, like Marie said, and like you're suggesting, that this is a suggestion or a recommendation or what we're trying to achieve, but there's not going to be any major repercussion if we don't complete this by this date or that on that date. So
No,
I
but think
thank you for
having-
that.
It's like having goals, know where you're going, but, how you get there and what happens along the way, the journey gets kind of messed up sometimes, but at least we have an idea of a vision of where we want to head.
Yeah, that's
And I think the
helpful.
conversation is more valuable than anything sometimes.
Barbara?
Just as a follow-up to that, as long as if we adopt this, it's as a suggestion and
I like the wording.
goal, because I was, the Altamont Enterprise shared a story that an adjoining school district had adopted this, and then some minor infraction happened on the part of one particular board member, and they were slapped like crazy in the press because they had violated the handbook. And I don't want us into that kind of a situation.
Yeah, I was sort of scared by that because it sounded like the underlying issue was that the handbook had been a bone of contention for a while, and it just resulted in this one issue.
I was reading that going, no, this is
Yeah.
this is not us.
Kathy?
I guess you have to be careful of the language,
Yeah.
because like, sometimes it says should, and sometimes it says will or shall.
Yeah.
And will or shall sounds like a directive that if you don't do it, there will be some consequence.
That's what I
Yeah,
was
that's,
getting
that
at
was, that
with
was,
my
what- that
issue.
and we did put, we had that discussion. And that's what's important, is that came out of that discussion.
Yeah.
Ben?
So I read this afternoon between when school ended and the board meeting started.
Very good.
And in terms of the tenses, shalls and shoulds, and, in some parts, and mostly towards the end, it says the board does this. The board annually reviews its mission statement. And so if this is again, starting language, if this is a suggestion of what we want to be doing, well, then that needs to be very clear, because reading it as someone brand new, and it says, well, this is what the board does, that's what it says. It says the board does this, and, not even the board shall or the board should. It just says, yeah, this is what we do. And so me reading it, I was like, oh, okay, so this is what we do, but apparently not. So, yeah, definitely some of those tenses could be fixed.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Gloria, these were great. I feel like the handbooks, the reading through them, I think it's great to have, this is what we should be doing. This is what
It's a good
the board.
conversation.
I think it's, and I definitely give you kudos for all the time and energy that went into it. I think it's great.
Thank you, those put in the time for
Yeah.
it.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Ben?
Just on the evaluating other board member performance, I just felt that it was unclear, because from the title, performance kind of makes us sound like we're critiquing each other's jobs on the board, but then reading through the language, it was more of like a conduct thing, like if we're crass, or if we're doing, have a, representing the school badly maybe outside of this room. It seemed like those are the kind of issues that you were trying to talk about, but the word performance, like I just, at the table of contents page, it's like, what? So.
Well, just so you know, Ben, that's where we stopped as a committee, because
Yeah.
we got hung up in exactly what you're hung up with. So we ended there. We haven't dealt with those sections or wording, because we were like going like this.
Okay, yeah. So, because the language, like I said, it seems like it's talking about conduct, but then it's not totally clear that it's talking about conduct, and then the title is performance, and so it kind of leaves you wondering.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we will move on to action items. We start with school business management action. Neil?
Okay, the first item this evening is a resolution and declaration showing the tabulation of votes cast at the annual budget vote and election meeting of the Gilderland Central School District on May 15th, 2018, and declaring the results of the ballot. I will save you from the 3.5 pages of recital. Very detailed information. I'll just provide the summary information. So for Proposition 1, which was the budget vote, we had 1,405 votes for that and 567 against, so that proposition passed. Proposition 2, which was the bus and equipment purchase, we had 1,414 votes for that and 549 against, so that proposition passed as well. In terms of the Board of Education candidates, Seema Rivera received 1,429 votes, Christine Hayes received 1,400 votes, Sean McGuire received 1,383 votes, and Benjamin Goes received 1,224 votes. So as a result of that tabulation, the incumbents, Seema Rivera and Christine Hayes, each are re-elected to a 3-year term, while Sean McGuire is newly elected to a 3-year term, and Benjamin Goes is elected to serve the remainder of the vacant 2-year term.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution and declaration showing tabulation of votes cast at the annual budget vote and election meeting? Tim, second. Judy? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve a service agreement with Oak Hill School to provide educational services to resident students and authorizing the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement.
May I have a motion to approve the service agreement with the Oak Hill School? Seema, second. Gloria. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to authorize membership with and participation in the E&I Cooperative Services, which is a purchasing cooperative established for K-12 and higher education institutions.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution? Kathy, second. Teresa. Questions or comments?
This is something different than what we've been doing, right?
Well, yes, this is a new purchasing cooperative. We do participate with other purchasing cooperatives. National Joint Powers Alliance was the last one we did a few years ago. It's on the same model. This one is dedicated exclusively to educational organizations, which is nice. There's 4,100 members across the country. They have over 120 contracts, both purchasing and services. So we certainly would be able to benefit from it. We would like to use this purchasing cooperative for the elevator replacement at Farnsworth Middle School. So they actually canvassed 6 elevator companies, did an RFP process, brought them all in, and awarded to Schindler. So what we would like to do is utilize Schindler to do the work at the middle school through the
Does that
cooperative.
pricing, I mean, do you have a price on it? Is it different
Yes.
from what we expected? Is it better, or?
It's within the monies that we had allocated.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
And then finally, this evening, we have a donation of a Ludwig snare drum and stand and a pearl bell and practice pad percussion kit from Mr. Nicholas Terriello.
May I have a motion to accept the donation? Judy, second. Barbara? Are there any questions or comments other than thank you for the very generous donation? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Neil. Now we move to superintendent action items. Marie?
I have before the board a resolution to authorize Catherine Rachetti to apply for a grant through the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association, TIAA. She would be applying for an award of $10,000 for our service dog program. Those applications are due on June 12th, 2018. You'll recall we have a board policy that requires the board to approve the application of any grant for greater than $1,000 before we submit it. So that's why I'm before you tonight with this request.
I'll do may I have a motion to approve the grant application? Seema, second. Teresa? Questions or comments? Gloria?
Question, Linda, on the agenda item printout comes up, but then when I tap on the TIAA, the difference maker 100, it says loading, but nothing comes up. Was that supposed to be the application?
Yeah, that happened to me too.
It's a link to the website.
Nothing's coming up. We
Yeah,
didn't get anything
it just
today.
keeps loading. That's what happened to me
Use
too.
the website.
I just pulled it up, so maybe
Come
it's
up through
just,
yours?
maybe it's just your computer.
I had this issue earlier today when I tried to click on it, and now
Look at loading.
I get loading too.
It's getting loading. Okay.
Do you want other comments?
Sure.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited seeing, when I go to Linwood, seeing the dog and how kids love and respond to this dog and how it does comfort. You can almost see when they see you. And I am so thrilled, and I'm glad that they reached out to Catherine. She's done a lot for us in that respect, and wow.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seema?
No, just good luck. I think it's awesome, and I learned in policy that we're like kind of, leading this in the area with the, right?
We are the leader of the pack. Couldn't resist.
Do we have plans, I know, what do we need, 2 more dogs? Is that what we're looking at?
We have one puppy on the way to go to Kate Tymason in 3rd grade at GES. And then we have at least 2 more coming. So we have,
And this helps pay for the expense of the training, too?
it's the puppy itself, the training, and some amount of the required equipment. They wear a vest, they have a mat, they have crates, and other training tools that we provide for them.
Okay. Well, I think it's wonderful. I really do. And I know our children will benefit, and that's the best.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Marie. And now we move down to board president action items. There are two this evening. The first is the approval of the student transportation regulation, which has been revised. Barbara, did you want to speak to this at all?
No, we've had this now. This is just a second read.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the student transportation regulation? Barbara, second. Ben, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. The second item is the appointment of an impartial hearing officer, a resolution to approve the appointment of Rosalind Roth in a special education impartial hearing pursuant to the board's compensation policy and pursuant to regulations of the Commissioner of the New York State Education Department. May I have a motion to approve the appointment? Teresa, second. Barbara. Are there any questions or comments? Ben?
Could you just explain what a special education impartial hearing officer is?
Sure.
When we have complaints filed against the school district in matters related to special education, part of the due process is an impartial hearing, and that is adjudicated by an impartial hearing officer. These are individuals who are screened and put on a list by the State Education Department. And so if we have one of these complaints filed, we have a very short period of time to actually appoint a hearing officer to adjudicate the proceedings if in fact it goes to a hearing. Often we are able to resolve these before that, but our timelines are so tight for the process that we need to appoint, and that if we don't need the person, then we don't use them. But we actually get penalized if we don't follow the timeline. So that's kind of the why and the how.
And so then we would have other impartial hearing officers for non-special education disputes?
Not,
Or is that not
no.
required by law?
This is a specific to special education process, due process.
Okay.
Other hearing, like I serve as the hearing officer for student discipline matters. We may have, I'm trying to think of other time when we would have a hearing officer, and I can't think of another one.
But this regulation relates specifically to
special education.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. And now we move on to board committee reports. Audit, Teresa?
We're meeting next Thursday, 8:15 at district offices.
Great.
The 31st.
Business practices, Kathy?
We're meeting on June 6th at 8:15.
Communications, Gloria?
June 8th, in the morning, 8 a.m. at Farnsworth.
Policy, Barbara?
I think it's June 13th at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay, great. And now we move to public comment number 2. I don't think anybody has signed up. So the next item on our agenda is board issues, ideas, and sharing. Does anybody have anything this evening? Seema?
I was going to ask Dr. Wiles, I had an email about, someone had emailed and asked what our district has in terms of school resource officers, because they read an article in the Capital Region. Some districts had just hired some school resource officers, and so I think she was just going to share her response publicly.
So we have a single full-time school resource officer who is assigned to the high school. That's where his office is. But he actually can serve and does serve all of our buildings, but he is technically stationed here at GES. So that's been our procedure for, I'm not sure how many years. I did see the article in the Times-Union, and I believe the school districts who were doing so for the first time, so it was a new arrangement for them. But we've enjoyed that partnership with the Guilderland Police Department for, I'm looking at 20 years, a very long time.
You said something about architects said you had a meeting.
So our last facilities committee meeting focused on school safety and security measures connected to our physical plant. And Melissa, whose last name I'm not going to remember at the moment, was talking about some of the things that we did in our last project around our vestibules and our transaction windows and our software that does screening of all visitors and our extensive camera system. And she simply made the point that we are years ahead of most other districts, that the projects and plans that they're drawing up now are doing the kinds of things we did several years ago now in our last project. So that was a very good thing to hear. And now we're thinking about, well, what else can we do around our facilities to continue to enhance the safety of them? So that was good news.
We received an email today from, I haven't got to read it yet, from someone, community member, I believe, concerned about, just kind of asking and sharing some information about the training that we have gone through, and is it changing, the idea of run rather than staying. It was a very lengthy and thoughtful communication, and basically asking the board is, if not to us directly, who would she get this, get the discussion about those kinds of issues.
I haven't seen the email, but we have a district-level safety committee that meets
That's what she asked, if this.
roughly monthly, and we have a training subcommittee. But I know we've already had this conversation about different frameworks for responding to these violent actions. Schools compared to things like malls or office buildings, and we have not resolved it, but we have certainly talked about whether or not there's wisdom in the whole flee and defend. I can't remember all the acronyms.
Yeah, that's exactly what she was referring to.
So I haven't seen the email.
If it's to you, you will answer her directly?
Absolutely, yes.
Yep, I think you were copied on the email.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you were copied. It was very, very thoughtful.
Okay, I will take a look.
Thank you.
And the other thing I just want to share is Judy and I had the opportunity, NYSBA ran the first. We're going to run 6 of these. They're called Education 2030 Summits. And the idea, and they started, the first one was here in Albany, and the idea was to begin conversations about the year 2030. And the reason why they picked 2030 was that the kids who are entering kindergarten will be exiting in the year 2030. Yeah, I know. We were all like, and so the whole, it was really well done. It was only like 3 hours, I think, straight, but a gentleman by the name of Bill Daggett spoke, a former student of ours has a company, and she spoke actually at the thing too. But they got us thinking in ways that, just blew my mind sometimes about we're preparing in the world that our kids, these kids, 2030 are going to be entering, and how do we as school districts begin to put together a kind of an education that would help them and support them in the kind of world that they're going to be entering. It's something we've been dealing with for years, but it was so dramatic because of the future that was presented to us with the changes in this whole nano field and biometrics. And I tell you, I sat there, my jaw was just on the floor. And the whole, NYSBA was really hoping to do this kind of thing. They're doing it across the state. And our commissioner, she was there, and she was the first speaker. She was wonderful. And she's going to go to all 6.
She asked to come.
She was not originally on it, but she said, "Can I be involved in this?" And they put her,
And she stayed for much of it.
She was there, and she's going to all 6 across the state, because the idea is, what they're hoping to do is to generate conversations so that people begin to think about this issue, about how our schools going to have to change, or whatever we have to do to meet the needs of students as these years go by. And they also made all the resources that we use there available. They gave a website or a site that we could go to. We'll get everybody's talk, everybody's thing. So I'm hoping once I go through it and figure it out and I'm hoping that maybe we could look at some of these things and maybe use them as a way of getting our own thinking going, kind of like to massage our own brains, because sometimes when it comes to you, goes, okay, what do you want to do? What's your priorities? What's your goals? I don't know where to begin, but boy, they made us really think. And then you're thinking, oh my gosh, where are we going? And so the questions, the way it was done was really good. And I'm hoping that we can maybe use some of it in some way. So I'm going to go through the the stuff that they sent, and maybe I can give pieces out in a way. I was gonna share some with Damien, maybe we can use them somehow in our own thinking for priorities, or just, you know, you gotta get yourself thinking before we can talk about the future or the priorities, and the stuff they presented would blow your mind.
They did things like, they showed a picture of the mainframe computer where it fills the whole room.
1971, remember those?
And now they're going to, the width of one of these strings is
The ants.
1/100th the width of a human hair.
That's
And then you
equal
look
to
at
that
this
mainframe.
big room full of, which doesn't do nearly as much as what they could develop now. I mean, it just,
The best thing was laundryless clothes. There'll be no more laundries.
Yeah.
You won't need laundries, because you're gonna have clothes that they don't hold stains, they don't hold smell, you can go running and then still go out to it. No, I'm telling you, it will blow
well,
your mind.
and with that.
Laundryless clothes.
Oh, my
It just
goodness.
scans you.
Change the nature of every weekend.
Right. You just stand in front of this thing, it scans you, you pick the cloth, you pick the color, boom.
But also then talking about.
And it's also already being done.
Yeah, how are we gonna prepare our kids for
For
this
those
kind of thing
world.
when it's so different from what we can imagine, which is why he started out with the mainframe computer. And pretty soon, within, I don't know, what do you say, 2 or 3 years, you know, you say you cannot bring a phone, or kids can have them in their ear.
A little computer will be right in their ear, they can do all of the,
Everything,
You didn't even know they had
or more. So what, and he talked about the loss of jobs, the changing of the economy, and how we're gonna have to be aware of it. So
it was
you
mind-boggling.
could tell.
I'm telling you, they have concrete that can heal itself. The concrete repairs itself. So you don't need to go out and pave the roads. It's organic, it just heals itself. Tires. They will not wear down, you never have to replace a tire, no flats, no nothing. One set of tires, and they last.
Are you impressed, Gloria?
So much fun.
It really
It would just blow, but then you start thinking, oh my God, what will that be? But the thing, we got into small groups, the thing that stayed with me and I couldn't stop thinking about is, yes, we can do all these things and all the technology and all, but who's asking the questions about should we, the whys, what does it mean? And I said, those are the areas, philosophy, the humanities, where's that? You know, I get really worried, you know, the technology can zoom us ahead, but there's really big, deep questions that need to be dealt with, so I'm hoping we can also get excited about some of this thinking.
And I suspect there'll be meetings like that at the convention in the fall, which will be in New York again, in New York City. And I'm sure they will have seminars on this type of thing, because Bill Daggett has spoken at other seminars, and he's very powerful. He knows what's going on. So.
Thank you for that. Barbara?
Just following up on the safety question in our new building plan that, you know, in another couple of years, I think I shared a video with all of you about one school district that's sort of gone to the ultimate safety-wise. And one of the things that intrigued me, and you'd have to do it as part of a capital project, is that they found that it was really important for a school, if something is happening in the classroom, for that teacher to be able to push a button and all the doors in that school lock automatically, so that a kid can't go from classroom to classroom, you know, causing all kinds of mayhem. And I don't know how expensive a system like that is, but we could at least look at it and see how much it would be. It's just one little extra level of safety that, you know, is a possibility.
Thank you, Barb. Ben?
In this vein, I had 2 ideas that I wanted to share tonight. And one of them was that I think that it might be a good idea for us to maybe host like a community forum on school violence and school safety, maybe not limited to you know, active shooter situations, but just this idea of there's a national conversation going on right now, and clearly it's on parents' minds a lot, and it might be just good for the community for us to very visibly say, all right, let's have a night where we can all come together, parents, teachers, students, the board, and talk about kind of what's going on and what we're doing here. I think it would be good for the community as a whole. Even if, you know, I think that we're doing a terrific job here. I agree with Dr. Wiles that we're ahead of the curve on a lot of things. I'm in the high school a lot. But I think it is something that we should be doing, given that it's such a big issue. And then the other idea that I wanted to talk about was currently at the high school graduation, students who have a 95 GPA or higher are seated on stage, as opposed to on the floor with the rest of the students. And just thinking about our movement towards inclusion and our elimination of class rank, I was thinking that the board might want to reconsider whether separating these students is still consistent with the philosophy that we're trying to move towards. That might be something that we want to refer to the policy committee or maybe to the building cabinet at GHS. But I think that many of the same issues and problems that we've been having, that we had with rank, for example, also apply to this, where for example, you could have a 94.96. I've met those students, plural, right? And it sucks for them, right? Because they're really just as good as the person with a 95.04, right? And of course, those decimal point places don't exist in the actual grade books. So I just, and additionally, you have students who are just amazing artists or amazing musicians, and so all the kids have something that they can offer, and it seems like a GPA is just a very crude tool to say, oh, you kind of shaped up kind of the way we wanted, so we're going to put you on stage. Just something that we might want to consider and think about whether that's still consistent with our vision.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Maria, is that something that we can refer to?
I actually think, I'm looking at Mike, the building cabinet probably should be the starting place for that. That's where the ranking conversation began.
It's a little bit of an issue because right now it's an issue because we had so many getting on stage. That was one of the topics of conversation we had about this graduation. Was there's a lot of kids on stage, we're just going to make some coordination problems as far as getting off from that comment. So it's already come up from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an opportunity.
And the first point, Ben, that you made about safety in the conversation, it has come up in our surveys, safety. From our perspective, what we're doing, but when we had that survey, it was a couple of years ago, that always priority.
2 years in a row.
A couple of years, 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Yes.
It came up
Last year and this year.
by parent, that safety is on people's minds, and it's absolutely something we have
Sad but true.
to remember.
Seema.
I don't know if you wanted to mention, or you want me to mention about the safety thing this Thursday?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So there's, the County of Albany is holding a forum on, it's a forum on school resource officers and students who make terroristic threats and keeping our kids safe, a community discussion. It's at Colony High School. I can forward everyone the email, and I think you have to RSVP. I'll be there, and I think it's open. You just have to RSVP and show up. It's, there's a bunch of different panel speakers from around the county, from some school districts and Colony Deputy Police Chief, so there's different...
It's just open to the public, too?
Yeah, I think you just have to RSVP.
There's a way of us getting
Is this
it out.
week, Seema?
I'm sorry, yeah, it's Thursday.
Is there a way for us to send an SMN out?
If you send it to me, I
Yeah,
can give it to
Yeah, just
Hubbard.
so the community may want to go to.
And it's a Gilderland dad who contacted first Christine,
Yep.
and then me.
Yep, so Seema will be sitting in the front as an active participant.
Not on the panel.
Not on
just
the panel, but as a more engaged participant in the front. Thank you for doing that, Seema. Anyone else? Judy?
Just a reminder that the CAPS meeting is May 31st, Capital Area School Boards, and it will be the honoring of students who will be getting scholarships, which is very nice. They award almost to any school that applies, almost can get one of their students can get these awards. And there isn't anybody from Gilderland, which was sort of a disappointment. And then they have a winner of a $500 scholarship. So it's not huge, but it certainly makes a difference. It buys books or, trips home or whatever. And then they're also going to have a speaker on LGBT rights in the school So it should be a very interesting meeting. They have a dinner, which is nice, and it's a good time to talk to people there. And then they have a meeting, and it's out by 8:15 or so. So it's not too long, and yet it's very nice. And to see these kids, of course, that's why we're here. Any kids and their pride and their parents' pride, so it's very nice. It'll be at Mount Pleasant High School, and I think you've all probably gotten notices about it.
Thank you, Judy. Barbara?
Just one more quickie. Again, in response to an article that was in the Enterprise regarding a bullying incident or a maybe bullying incident in an adjoining school district, one of the parents apparently asked for the VEDA report, and the school district reported that there wasn't one instance of bullying in 5 years in their elementary schools, which to me blew my mind. So I'm wondering, I know we have to file these reports, could the board get maybe for us, that kind of a report for the last few years?
Sure.
Right, thank you, Barb. Anyone else?
I have one quick thing on the topic of panels. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Guilderland Y, they're hosting an opioid discussion panel. And it's hosted by the Y, but it'll include District Attorney David Soares, and he's partnering with County Executive Dan McCoy, as well as Addiction Services and medical personnel. They've actually asked me to be on the panel to talk about the educational side of things, so it's 6 o'clock tomorrow at the Guilderland Y, and I don't think you need to RSVP or anything, but I just throw it out there because I know that's another timely topic.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and now we need a motion to go into executive session to discuss issues relating to a current litigation matter, the employment history of particular persons, and parameters relating to the board's negotiation strategy. May I have a motion? Ben, second Teresa. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.